Here we go. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning from the UK. I just want to make sure that everyone comes in. If you could all make sure that you're muted, that would be really useful, please. So if you could just make sure we don't have any echoes and things like that. I can mute everybody, actually. There you go, mute all. There we go. So you're all muted, but that doesn't mean that you haven't got anything to say. So please do join us in the chat box. I've put hi in the chat box over there. Good morning, David, in the UAE over there. Great to have you on board. Yeah, where are you all coming in from? Do use the chat box and let us know exactly where you're dialing in from. It's a fantastic opportunity for us all to discuss the impact of stress and personality, etc., on our lives. So we've got some brand new information to share with you. I'll just allow a couple more people coming in. I can see lots of great people from across the UK and across the world. So amazing to have you all with us. So without further ado, I'm going to launch straight into this. We have 90 minutes together. I appreciate that you might need to drop out at a certain time. Please don't worry about any of that. But do use that chat box, right? Please do use that chat box and make sure that you're a part of this great discussion that we're having. And later on, we may ask you to unmute if you would like to get more involved. So when I share my screen like that and go from the start, we are good to go. Excellent. Right. So welcome to Stress Remixed, mastering your reactions through personality and personality diversity. It's powered by the E-Colours with myself and Lewis Senior, the CEO of Equilibria. And we will introduce ourselves formally and fully in a moment. But as I say, welcome along. Amazing response, actually, globally, which is fantastic to see. So please, today on Zoom, could you do the following? Could you rename to display your e-colours as whatever your e-colours are, especially if you know them? So you can see myself on the screen here. It says Y/R, that's yellow red. And the way you rename is you hover over the screen over your picture and you click on the three dots. And when you click on the three dots, it says rename. There's an opportunity to rename yourself. So please do rename with your e-colours, particularly when you're using the chat box, because later on we're going to ask you some questions around stress, and we would like you to put your thoughts in there. There's no pressure on you to do so, but you know what we do is research. So ultimately, we would love you to be a part of the research and what we're doing. Okay. So manage your microphones, please, and have your camera on if possible. It is fantastic to see so many of you. And later on, I will take off the screen share so we can all see each other as well. A huge amount of people still joining, which is fantastic. Think about yourself as well as other people as we go through today's session. So when you are looking at yourself and understanding a bit more about stress and personality and what we're going to share, please do that. But also think about other people around you as well. It could be colleagues, it could be family members, it could be, you know, how are my actions impacting on others as well as the stress that I might be feeling myself. So that's all part of our research, is understanding self-awareness, but also team awareness, understanding other people around you day by day. As I've said, please contribute your thoughts, feelings, and ideas in that chat box. It's fantastic to see so many people from all over the world. Dean there from New Zealand, he might be the furthest away from me here in London, but you never know. And we may ask you to unmute. We may ask you to be a part of something if you would like to. No pressure. But later on, if you want to put your hand up, you can do. And we will do a debrief and a Q&A at the end of the session, where you're most welcome, absolutely, to contribute as well. We really do want to hear from you and your thoughts. So we thought we should start with, you know, a definition of stress. You know, what is stress? In the UK, stress is defined as the adverse reaction that people experience due to excessive pressures or demands, occurring when these demands exceed our ability to cope. It is not a sickness, it's a state. But if that state is prolonged, it can cause severe physical and health issues. And I've added, from my LIFREMIXED perspective, excuse me, I've added, including diseases or indeed disorders. Now, Lewis and I both have personal experience of this. And before we do our sort of formal introductions, I really just wanted to introduce you to Lewis and let him talk a little bit about his experience of stress and how it impacted him. So good morning, Lewis.
Hi, morning everybody, or good evening, depending on where you are. Well, first of all, it's great to see everybody here. What a wonderful turnout. I've actually been thinking a lot about this since Mark and I had the original conversation. And, stress comes along at different parts of your life. When you've got young children, as life goes on, the stress changes. But the biggest one for me was I was health and safety manager for a large drilling contractor. And as we were merging and acquiring different companies, we went from a culture of fantastic safety, basically, to killing 7 people over a 2-month period, and it caught me so much um, internally. I think probably emotionally as well, that I finished off lying on the floor thinking I was dying, and that's why I wrote, along with my daughter, wrote at the end of the day. So I'm sure as we go through this today, what we're going to find is lots of people have different stresses, and how we deal them is something that we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you for sharing that, Lewis. And also, as well, from my deep yellow blue side of e-colors, thank you for writing at the end of the day, because when I read it, it gave me the, I guess, allowance or approval to write my story in Life Remixed. Because you not hiding that story and actually sharing what happened to you, particularly in chapter one of At the End of the Day, it gave me the authority, if you like, to write Life Remixed, and I'm forever grateful for that as well, which is probably a lot of the reason why we're here today. So let's talk about some stress examples. There can be lots of different examples, can't there? It can be work related, feeling overwhelmed, high volume workloads, deadlines, or even poor leadership and management, which can often lead to burnout of individuals, which is very important to understand. It can show up in our personal life as well, struggling with financial pressures, major life changes, bereavements, or indeed just taking too much on, too many responsibilities, perhaps. There can be physical reactions, headaches, muscle tensions, nausea, dizziness, rapid heart rate palpitations, even to down to panic attacks and things like that, or behavioural changes, withdrawing from others and snapping at colleagues, struggling to sleep, or increased alcohol and nicotine example. So there's lots of different ways that stress can show up, and there's some commonly used stress terms: being overwhelmed, feeling unable to manage tasks or demands; burnout, physical and emotional exhaustion resulting from long-term stress, can be a real thing for people. Certainly happened to me. Pressure as well, strain caused by high demands. Although manageable pressure is not always negative, so let's be clear about that. Good pressure is okay to a point, but we must understand the individual and the person that we're working with. Anxiety, a common mental health issue as a result of chronic stress, can come up, and we're going to do another session on that in May, which I'll tell you about in a moment. Tension, physical or mental strain, or indeed any kind of strain, pressure, and overload. All of these triggers can be issues that cause a stress reaction. Now, before I go on to that slide, I just want to let you know that our friend and colleague, Danny Keller, is also in the chat box there. He's up at 5 a.m. in the USA. Our colleague from Equilibria, fantastic man, yellow, blue, e-colors, Danny. So Danny, if you just want to make sure you're in that chat box there. Danny is there to help with any questions or indeed anything that might be coming up that you would like to know about. Danny's going to be able to field those for you. And of course, Lewis and I will be there at the end as well. Okay, so watch out for Danny in the chat box there. It's going to be he's going to be a great part of this session as well. And also Bavia, my virtual assistant, and working with me a lot on my LinkedIn, is also putting links into that chat box there as well. So please do use those. Okay, use those links for your benefit, because part of this is for you to grow, you to get where you want to get to. So I have a diary date for you as well. Next time, we're going to do these once a month now. So the next time, if you want to make a note of this date, on Friday, May the 8th, we're going to do mental health remix, turning triggers into power. And how does that show up for different personality styles? So we're going to be looking at that. 2 sessions again. The first session will be slightly later at 9:30 a.m. And 3 p.m. on that day. So Friday, May the 8th, put it in your diary. We would love to see you again for that. So who we are, this is myself and Emma. Most of you know myself and Emma, but we like to introduce ourselves formally, as I promised you. I'm a health, safety, environment director, an e-colors coach and director working with Equilibria. Yellow, red are my e-colors, so a big socializer, a big doer, and I'll show you that in a moment. Success coach, best-selling author, My wife is green and blue e-colors practitioner, event director, working very hard at the moment on a big event she's running in Chicago that we're going to together next week. I've written 4 books, co-wrote one of those with Paul Grant, Money Remixed, and the other Personalities Remixed, very much about the e-colors with the two co-founders, Lewis Senior and Paul Grant. Very grateful to be included and very happy to be doing this work. So very, very important to understand e-colors and how that shows up in every relationship in your life. They're the 4 books close up for you. They're all available if you want to get one, and there's audio versions as well. And there are new books planned for this year from Equilibria and from the Remix series. So very, very positive, and we like to help wherever we possibly can. I am Institute of Leadership approved. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Leadership, and so everything I do in that way has ethics, as we do in Equilibria as well. And all of the work we do is positive with people. A little bit about myself. I was resident DJ at Ministry of Sound when I was 25, believe it or not. Had a top 10 hit with Lou Reed and David Bowie. Then I worked as health and safety manager at the Olympic Stadium. Take on a small job as your first health and safety job, Mark. And then I went to Heathrow, and I went to Heathrow for a few years. I went from a subcontractor right up to very, very senior management there with the board of directors. And a fantastic opportunity working there. Worked with a large major UK construction company for a couple of years, and now very grateful to be doing this work with Equilibria as we've documented the story in Personalities Remixed. I also do a bit of the music still, so if you would like to go to the Mark Wilkinson Mixcloud, please do. You can find all my DJ mixes and music there as well. I've just done a recent one there for the Southport Weekender. So the e-colors concept, let's look at this. We've added a little bit more to this just recently. We all have made up of these percentages that we have. So if you have a basic report or a premium report from Equilibria, you will know your own percentages. And I'll show you Lewis's and mine and Emma's in a moment. But essentially, we all made up of this. The red part of our personality likes to take action. We call it the doer. And generally, those words are like, what are we doing and when are we doing it by? The yellow, which is my lead color, highest percentage, is the socializer. I love to engage, love to do things like this. And are very much about who's involved, who are the people. You know, the amazing amount of people on this call is the bit that I absolutely love to understand with each of you. The blue side of ourselves is very much about relator and supporting and why, okay? And the green part of ourselves is very much thinker and planning and how. And I can see a question there from Georgie that says, how are the colours different to another book that we know of? Essentially, the colours are different in the respect of the blue and green are the other way around for us. And if I explain that to you, we do earth, wind, fire and water, which has been around for thousands of years. Earth would be the green, the thinker, the planning, the foundation. Earth, wind, yellow, energy, high energy, yellow. Earth, wind, fire, red, doer. And then the water, cool blue water. It's very important to understand that to us, that makes absolute sense. Other tools may have a different outlook or a different way of looking at things. But for us, those blue and green are the opposite way around to some other tools you may have looked at. Now, from the red, green and green, red side of things, generally, if you're there first, you might well think about the task first and be quite comfortable working independently at times. Whereas if you're on the yellow, blue, yellow side, you'll be more people orientated a lot of the time, more interdependent, like to have people around you more often than not. If you're yellow, red and red, yellow, you'll tend to be faster paced and big picture orientated. And actually, if you're more steady paced and information orientated, you're more likely to be blue, green and green, blue. Now, we've also added these other two last couple of bits to this slide recently. Red, green and green, red can tend to be more logical and more less emotional at times. Whereas if you sit more yellow, blue and blue, yellow, depending on your percentages, you may well tend to be more intuitive and indeed more emotional at times. And that's certainly my experience. And it does depend on your percentages as they come out in your either basic or premium report, should you get one of those from Equilibria. As an example, here is my e-colors. Now, Socrates said, know thyself. That's a great start point. It's a great place to begin. Know thyself, okay? I do have strengths. I do have potential limiters. And I love that description. It's not a weakness. It's a potential limiter because ultimately it's very important that we understand that we do have potential limiters, not weaknesses. And if it's a potential limiter, we can choose to do something about it. Now, if you look at my percentages of 40% yellow, socializer, 26% red, doer, 25% relator and empathy, and 9% thinker, green thinker, that's clearly my potential limitation there on details and strategy and things like that. But actually, if you look at the emotional side of life that I was just showing you about yellow blue as an example, you can see my yellow and blue. I'm actually 65% more towards the emotional side of life and 35% more towards the logical side of life. Now, you will have your own percentages, you'll have your own scores. The aim is not to be anything but yourself, Alan, and absolutely to live in your strengths, which we'll talk about as we go through this. My strengths are optimistic, big picture, energetic, and talkative for sure. Any of you that know me, have met me, you will know that. I can be disorganized, emotional, reactive, and overly talkative at times, and Lewis will know that more than most. But essentially, we need to understand this about ourselves and then about each other to then be able to get into the stress conversations about what's showing up and when. Lewis, over to you.
Yeah, hi. Again, my name is Louis Senior. Have the privilege of being CEO of Equilibria. We started back in 2004. And when we first started, it was very much dedicated, as I mentioned before, because I got fed up of seeing people hurt, maimed, and killed and couldn't understand what we were missing. And so we really decided to have a look at how do you actually manage yourself from a safety perspective, understanding your personality. Like Mark says, we've all got our percentages, and it is worth understanding that those percentages come out and play very, very importantly because a lot of people, yes, my predominant E colors are yellow, red, but I also have a lot of green and blue in me. And in fact, unlike Mark, I have a lot less blue in me and probably a little bit more green. And there's a few questions that have come up here. It's probably worth answering straight away. Is the aim to get red yellow in your view? No, because as a blue green, I understand if that's what you're asking. The aim is not to become red yellow. The aim is to understand yourself, know your strengths, know your potential limiters, and we'll be talking that a little bit more going on. And Mark has answered very well, I think. When we talk emotional perspective, for example, if I go back to myself, I can be emotional sometimes at the wrong time, and that's probably what got me in a bind when I finished off laying on the floor think I was having a heart attack because I got emotionally attached to things that I really couldn't do anything about. So all of this, I think, will become clear as we go forward.
Absolutely. And just looking in the chat box there as well, David Studden over there in Abu Dhabi and the UAE says stress for us here in the UAE has been the constant alerts that we kept getting day and night for the last 40 days. Yeah,
Absolutely.
respect to you, David, and everyone in that Middle East region at the moment. Yeah, that is a real stress. Yeah, no, absolutely. And appreciate you being here as well as everyone else on this call. It's amazing to see so many people here. So fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I want to show you my strengths again and my potential limiters, but I want you to see the comparison between myself and my wife. So this is what my wife Emma, she's on the call, and her e-colors are very different to mine, aren't they? Can you see that? Can you see the difference between myself and Emma on the socializer front? That's probably why I'm sitting here on the camera and doing the call, and Emma is, in the background doing her work and supporting. I think it's very important to understand these about each other. Essentially, when you start to understand this about indeed the people closest to you, but then also other people you're working with and interacting with, you can see predictable behaviors. And actually, Lewis, do you want to just touch on that predictability of personality and what we've discovered over the last 22 years plus?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we've been doing continually, and Mark is going to talk a little bit about this later on, is we've been asking literally hundreds of thousands of people, well over 1.5 million actually, on our system, but also in live sessions as well. What are the things that, make the predictability, if you like? So the very first question we asked years and years ago was how could people get hurt, be it physically or metaphorically. We then talked a little bit about what makes it difficult to have a safety conversation or stop the job. Then we looked at why do some people follow procedures and others do not follow procedures? And we've continued down that line over the years. And when you're seeing probably in about 25, 26 different languages, the same answers coming back in the same order, then there is an element of predictability. And as we like to say, if you can manage it, if you can predict it, you can manage it. And that goes very much for the same when we're talking about stress as well, which is what the subject of today is.
Absolutely. And, you know, these two people are very different in yellow socializer and green thinker, but they're also very similar in red doer and blue relator. So what you're actually seeing here is like attracts like and opposites attract in two pie charts, which is a really useful tool to have at your fingertips to understand what's actually going on in any relationship with any person. So I do urge you to discover your e-colors. I do urge you to go to the Equilibria website. Oh, there we go. Discover your e-colors. And indeed go to the blog and the shop and indeed discover more and more and more about the e-colors and the work that we do. And I'm going to share a lot more with you. There are three different reports: the free one, the basic one, and the premium one. One paragraph, one page, 33 pages. Children as young as 7 can do their e-colors, and indeed you can get 20% off with Hillmont Premium and LIFREMIXED Premium. If you would like to get a premium report, please do. Probably the best $40, 30 pounds that you'll ever spend, I would suggest. You can also get one-to-one coaching with Lewis and myself as well. We're very, very comfortable working with you one-to-one globally as well. So once you've got your e-colors, you can reach out to us as well. You can go to my website, markwilkinsonofficial.com and hillmontassociates.com to find out lots more information. We're here to help always. And if you find today interesting, become an e-colors practitioner with us. We would love to see you be a part of this because we want to share it with more people. Next practitioner dates are Monday and Tuesday next week. So let us know if of interest at any time. You can also become an affiliate. Danny can tell you more about the affiliate network and become an affiliate with Equilibria and share more information as we go through. Join us at the next Life Remix Live as well in London. I'll share more information with you. So let's get into this. Now, personal intervention is something we talk about. Play and pause. Okay, play and pause is something that, as you can imagine, as an ex-international DJ, it really appealed to me because ultimately I never even understood that I had a pause button or a play button within me. I just went around the world being Mark the yellow blue at the time, and with my strengths and indeed my potential limiters, and not necessarily getting the best results as I've documented in the book Life Remixed. Now, once I found my e-colors out, and then I started to look at play and pause as a coaching tool. I reached out to Lewis within a few minutes and said, we need to talk. That was 15 years ago or more. It's been an amazing journey. Leveraging your strengths is very important. Not overplaying them, because if you overplay your strengths, they could become potential limiters as well, as we'll discover. But also we need to manage our potential limiters. And that is an ongoing process as human beings. We can keep learning, keep growing. But you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be committed to yourself and to personal development and improvement at all times. Now, if we put in pause and play into this, just to reiterate the fact that we're all human beings and we're made up of all 4 e-colors, pause and play comes into it like this. So if you are leading with green, as an example, sometimes you might want to pause on thinking or overthinking, but you also want to be clear that you're a good thinker and you want to make sure that you're living in your strengths and being very, very good at that and comfortable with that. If you're high blue, like my mother, for instance, ultimately, you might lead with feelings a lot of the time, but you might understand that you need to indeed play or pause in there as well. If you're red and you just want to go to action very, very quickly, let's just get to action. You know, why isn't everyone coming with me when I'm doing my actions? Well, ultimately, there might need to be a pause or indeed a play moment in your strengths and potential limiters as well. And of course, for my fellow yellows, sometimes we might speak too much or overshare. And ultimately, we need to be better versions of ourselves, all of us, based on our percentages from those e-colors that I've just shown you from myself, Emma, Lewis, etc. Hope that makes sense to everybody. Feel free to put any questions in the chat box as well as we go. So the e-colors, basically, it is a quadrant personality theory. Lewis, you often say it's like old wine in new bottles. We haven't created personality diversity. It's been around for thousands of years. But ultimately, the e-colors is something that we brought together and has become a research project over the years about finding out those predictable indicators. So we want to understand social, emotional intelligence, how to be able to collaborate and communicate better. And then when you add it to personal intervention, which no other tool uses in the way that we do, We have a self-development coaching tool that enables us to manage personality and indeed build our character to become more intentional. And the whole word we look at in this life is intentional. Let's be intentional with the way we lead. Let's be intentional with the way we communicate. Chris, I see you saying you're often pressing pause these days. Well done. Keep going, particularly as a yellow green there, Chris, as I know you well. It's very, very important to be more intentional and understand the other person just as much as yourself. If I go around the world being yellow red to everybody, it might work with some, but it's not going to work with everybody. And that's a key point. So you do the questionnaire, you find out your style, you have awareness and understanding, which builds and builds and builds. Understanding we're not all the same. There's different styles, different communication, different behavioral, and it's usable globally. 1.5 million times our questionnaire has been completed so far. Lewis, we've worked in multiple countries, across the globe. And as you say, the answers become beautifully predictable, don't they? So I think it's very, very important to understand how this process turns up. We all have 4 within us. Most people, it's that most people show a predominance to 2. Of the 1.5 million so far, I think there's been 2 people that are 25% of everything. That can be great, as in you're great, you can have all the strengths, but you could also be in all the potential limiters as well. So again, it's not a goal to be anything but you and be good at being yourself. I think it's very important to make sure that you are the best version of you and that you're able to then grow with that and understand other different people around you. We have the 12 different e-color combinations based on the top 2. And that leads into the 8 essentials of high performing teams, because the e-colors actually means different things on these subjects to different people, which I'll show you in a moment. And of course, it improves that communication. That's actually a picture that makes me smile from an event I did recently. Teamwork, leadership, and safety, and indeed a proven methodology, again from the event that we run. So we use it, and I want you to think how you could use the e-colors here as well. Team building, leadership development, in your coaching, in what you're doing with one-to-ones, behavioral and psychological safety, preventing people from getting hurt, stress management, which we're going to look at today, stress awareness, conflict resolution, change management, business development, realizing potential, because it's part of my LIFREMIXED coaching plan. And how could you use the e-colors? I want you to ponder on that. I want you to think on that when I show you more and more information as we go through this time together. Now, knowing your e-colors is one thing, but learning to manage them over time is really quite another. This is the first in a monthly series, like I said, giving you the next date of May the 8th. And today, Stress Remixed, as you know. We're not going to tell you anything. We are going to share you research, and we're going to read and listen to all of your contributions. And we'd love you to observe. Always become the observer in this life. Very often we can be quick to judge. I think it's becoming an observer. And the more you can observe yourself and others around you, the more you'll see where stress is showing up, even if people aren't completely aware of it in that moment.
Mark, can you just pick up on Dawn saying, could you go back 1 slide, please?
That one? Dawn, if you'd
Dawn,
like
is that the one you're looking for?
If you'd like to reach out to me separately, Dawn, just for the amount of people on the call, please reach out to me separately and I'll absolutely share this with you. And please, I would ask as well, please don't do screenshots and put things onto the internet and stuff like that as well. We are giving you our best here, but please, share some things if you want. If you're not sure, reach out to us, but please don't share any of the IP, etc. as well. Okay. Good. So become your observer. Okay. Become your observer of yourself and others. And it will really benefit you in the e-colors process. Now, ask us how you can get hurt is how it started, which is what Lewis spoke about earlier. And that is both physically and emotionally. And it's the same answers pretty much for everything. So again, the reason I love the e-colors is it starts from safety and it's very much about the human being, which of course very much appeals to me. Now, today we're going to ask you about tell us how you can get stressed. Okay, I did send you out, many of you, well, in fact, most of you that signed up certainly before yesterday, I sent you out a sheet here. And this sheet is very much about some questions that we're going to ask you as we go through, and we would love you to use the chat box. You can see I've completed mine, but don't feel any pressure. You can just do this on the fly if you want to, but we wanted you to have at least a bit of preparation time about some of the questions we're going to ask and your thoughts on these. Okay, so we'll be talking about that together. But all of this is based on your personality and how you show up. And you will be able to recognize yourself in each area, but you'll tend to lead towards your top two the majority of the time. Okay. Now, we react from our personality. That's the bit we're looking here to manage, okay? To react from our personality, we need to manage that, but it's instinctive a lot of the time, okay? It's just instinctive. It's what we just do naturally, normally, day in, day out. And it's the bit that sometimes needs a pause or a play to actually get to where we need to get to. What we're looking for here is to be able to respond in a more intentional way, understanding how our mind works. Our background, beliefs, morals, and values, of course, will impact that, and managing our personality tendencies. So never, ever, ever feel boxed in by the e-colors. Quite the opposite. It's an opportunity to look at oneself and then grow from that to be able to get where you want to get to. It's very ethical as well. And please remember, it's an indicator, never a definition of who you are. Okay. So hopefully you're understanding that from myself and Lewis and being in a good place. Now, continuous research is a very interesting subject. We are up to around 75 questions that we've now asked people from our data lake of information. Here's just a few of them: stress today, conflict, teamwork, intentional communication, leadership, procedures, as Lewis mentioned. We're talking about challenging conversations, necessary conversations, how you can get hurt, error reduction, and a brand new course, intentional business development, working on all of these things for people to help them grow so they can actually be more effective in what they're doing. Few of the questions are shown there, but the idea is to stimulate conversations, to get people thinking and speaking to each other in a much more intentional way. And at the moment, we are just expanding up to 250 questions that we're asking people over the coming weeks, months, years. If you have questions that you think we haven't covered at any given time, we want to hear from you. This is a research project as much as anything else, and we would love to hear from you and you to be a part of it. And we can ask those questions off the database as well. Okay. Use these tools. Please use them. The pocketbooks are on the Equilibria website, as are the premium reports, etc. And you can see I've got my wristband on. It's very, very important to be into what's going on around the e-colors. So I told you 1.5 million people. I've said to you not to feel boxed in. To some extent, we can anticipate thought processes and interactions, and personality tendencies provide information that may lead to harm, highlight challenges, and indeed help us grow as leaders in teams around safety and more. And this 8 essentials here, we can send this out to you. But a lot of companies will come to us and say, as an example, we've got a problem with trust and psychological safety or accountability or something like that. And we say, look, back up. We need to start with a self and team awareness session. And then from there, we can start to feel trust, psychological safety, and then we can start to grow after we've been through the driving elements. So history and science, very quickly, as I said, old wine, new bottles. But Lewis came up with this. He saw, under a stressful situation, he saw a problem and then started to research personality work, which has led to Equilibria's 22 years of work. And it is different ethics, different research, and a coaching tool, which a lot of the other products are not. Okay. Started in oil and gas, and children as young as 7 can complete the e-colors. And in Personalities Remixed book, the longest chapter is e-colors for education, for a reason, because 7-year-olds can do it. And when they do it, it's phenomenal to see. Phenomenal to see. So we're aligning with emotional intelligence. We are differentiating personality and character, and we honor ethics as well. Emotional intelligence is vitally important. 90% of top performers score high in emotional intelligence. So let's be really good at this. Okay. If we can get our personality into the right place, so we respond with character, we're more likely to get intentional results because we have awareness. If we don't, if we react without awareness, we might have unintentional consequences. And that's where the pause and play comes in that I've already mentioned. Quick one on the ethics, just to read these out, very important, okay? On the right-hand side, what the e-colors are not. They're not a profiling system designed to assist in job team selection or any kind of assessment process. They're not a way to box or discriminate, limiting potential. In fact, our ethos is realizing potential, the exact opposite of that. They're not a finite description of who we are and how we act when you think of the iceberg, and they're not an excuse for poor behavior or having a fixed mindset. Okay. Those are very strong ethics for the e-colors. We have noticed other tools potentially not following those ethics, and for us, that was very important distinction for us to have the ethics. So please use the chat box if you've got any observations, questions. I can see some great chat going on in there as well. Wonderful. Please keep using it. Now let's talk about you and your e-colors. You know the concept. I've shown this to you already just to understand where we're all sitting. In the chat box, this is the sheet that I sent to you. Your main strengths, your main potential limiters, and then the stress and indeed some conflict questions. So we're going to go into full action now with the chat box. Please be at the ready. Okay. If you haven't done preparation, don't worry. Just use the chat anyway. These are the questions that we're going to ask, and I'm going to ask them in each color. Okay. So as an example, top reds. Can you tell us about a couple of your strengths in the chat box, please? If you can go for it. If you have red, we want to know about your strengths, please. Please do share. I want to monitor that, and I want to see what people come up with. Yeah, achievements. Yeah, decisive. Yeah, action orientated. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, making decisions. Thank you. Yeah, brilliant. This is fantastic. Excellent work, everybody. So I want you to understand that the strengths and potential limiters that we are about to show you are researched information. And very much looking at everybody on here. All the reds are now telling us these great pieces here around results, big picture, getting things done. Really interesting there. All of the reds, that's fantastic. Please keep going. But very, very important for high reds to understand that these are their strengths. Yeah, very, very good. There's some there that we've shown. This is some of the research that we've done. Making decisions at Olympic level. I love that. Very, very good. And seeing the big picture quickly. Fantastic. This is great, right? So look, there's some very strong reds here, and they're showing us a lot of their strengths. There's some that we've put there on the screen. Feel free to look at those, decide which ones work for you. Bring your own to the table. Very, very important as well. So high yellows next. High yellows, could you please tell us some of your strengths, please? The reds, by the way, you can keep going as well. It's fantastic to keep seeing this. But with the high yellows, please tell us some of your strengths. Yep. Love people. Yep. Creative. Absolutely. I'll throw a few of my own in as well while you're all doing that. Positive, optimistic, enthusiastic, happy. Dean, motivating. Yeah. Absolutely. Karen. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah. Love this. Social butterfly, yeah. Cheerleader, that's good, yeah. Like to help, yeah. Talkative, yeah. Great. So the yellow side of ourselves is very much there. There's some strengths there as well. These are things that yellows have told us over the years about, very much about being in that position of that sort of optimistic and people orientated. And you can see that. You can see it with people when they're in their yellow, or indeed if they have a high yellow percentage. Very, very interesting to see. Keeping the mission going, can we have the high blues, please? Can some of the high blues tell us some of their strengths, some of the things that they're comfortable with? High blues, and then I'll show some of the strengths that have come up from the blue perspective. Yeah, there we go. Supportive of others, Gail. Brilliant. Yeah. Loyal, Philip. Yes, very, very good. Carolyn, calm. Loyal, good listener, lovely thinker. Yeah, Alan. Yeah, brilliant. I know you're blue-green there, Alan. Yeah, that comes in for sure. David, supportive and calm, fantastic. Yeah. Angela, supportive, dependable. Yeah, look at that. It's coming up often. Yeah, a lot when I run these sessions, in large groups, certainly face to face as well. And we do breakouts and things like that. I get a lot of blues telling me calm, supportive, and loyal are the three, and you can see those are starting to come up more and more often here as well. Very important, kind. Yeah. There you go. That's lovely. Really important to understand the blue perspective, that these are some of the blue strengths that people have shown us. Yeah. And have a look at them. Have a look at them. So as I show them, have a look at your own there and start to think about things as they show up for you, because this is very important when we start to get into the stress conversation. Okay. Very, very important to understand that this is where we're coming from when we're in our blue. And I relate to that. I relate actually to all of these. And the way the percentages work is 40% yellow for me. Yep, everything. 26 red, some. 25 blue, some. And my green is my potential limitation, certainly around the 9%. So greens, Could I have some greens, please, in the chat box? Some greens telling us about their strengths, please. Look at the greens go. Look, they're prepared. They're prepared. They're ready. This is great. Oh, fantastic. Look at this. Yes, detail orientated, thinker, methodical. Yeah, analytical, logical, persistent. Wonderful. Look at this. Love a spreadsheet, says Emma. Oh, this is fantastic. Isn't it great to start to observe the world? I only see the world in e-colors now, and it really helps me with understanding each individual person as they show up. And I hope you're enjoying this in that chat box, because this is very, very, very important for each of us to understand there. Paul Grant, one of the co-authors there of a couple of the remix books, says analytical, detail orientated, structured. Yeah, absolutely. And analytical, organized, and a to-do list. Yeah, absolutely. There's some of the green strengths. Look, some of the green strengths are there, and ultimately they are there for you to look at, think about. You know, we are not defining you. We are not telling you this is who you are, but we are saying to you, hey, look, based on your percentages, there are some things here that start to show up as natural tendencies at different times. Yeah, Alan, cautious, yes.
Mark, I think this is where the predictability starts to show up.
Please, Lewis, go on.
No, I think it's at the end of the day, you can read it for yourself. We've got 77 people on the call. If we had 700,777, you'd be seeing these kind of answers from these, from these e-colors. And I think that's the power we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, Carolyn just says there about I run from spreadsheets. Carolyn, as you know, I was yellow blue, or predominantly yellow blue, just slightly yellow red now. Spreadsheets are unfortunately for me, are a real struggle as well. But yeah, you can just see, Enema says you can just see the personality showing up in the chat and the way people are writing and stuff like that as well. You can see it. You see it in the way people are writing. You see it in the way people are speaking. I had a great chat actually yesterday with Alan Crawford, who's here on the call. And Alan, it was so great to reconnect with you. And I heard him speak, and I said to him, "Would you do your e-colors?" And I had an inkling of his e-colors, and he came out as blue-green, and yeah, we smiled together because I could see it. I could see it. Yeah, David, what would the world be without color? It'd be grey. Yeah, absolutely. So now that was maybe the easy bit. Let's look at the more challenging part of this. The more challenging part of this can be understanding our potential limiters. So let's look at that together as well. Same process again. Okay. If we could get please the there you go, blew that. If the top color reds could please go into the chat box again and tell us about some of their potential limiters. Paul Green first in with harsh. Paul Grant, sorry, first in with harsh. Great to observe about ourselves, right? I know my own as well. Each of us know our own. Impatient, yeah. Direct, yeah. Impatience can come up, yeah. Sometimes too fast, yeah. Don't bring people along with me. That's good, Britt Lee. Yeah, interesting. Loud, red, yellow. Yes, sweet. Yeah. Wani there, Joanny, is it Wani or Joanny saying anger? Yeah, that can happen, can't it? Yeah, certainly if we're in red at times, we might get a bit angry. Poor listeners. Yeah, great. This is excellent. Thank you all the Reds for putting this stuff in there. Very important there. So actually Zoe puts in there very interesting red yellow as missing details. If you talk to a red green, they won't miss the details. So again, the secondary e-colors really come out here very, very importantly to understand that second e-color as well. When we do the breakouts, if we have enough people, we might put into 12 different e-color combinations. But actually, if we just do enough people with 4 breakouts, you can see the secondary e-colors playing out very, very quickly. So again, we need to understand our potential limiters and how they might come up. Impatient there from Karen as well, and insensitive from Audrey there. Just understanding, look, hey, here's some potential limiters that Reds have told us. And let's be clear with the potential limiters, the majority of us globally are not trying to be in our potential limiters, but they tend to come up until we learn play and pause. And until we can manage ourselves and then help ourselves and then help others, we get to a really, really strong point of understanding, intentionally communicating, as it were. So from the yellow, thank you, Reds. That was amazing. For the yellows, please tell us some of your potential limiters. Yellows, let's go. Duncan's ready. Thank you, Duncan. Georgie, yeah, 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 yeah. Interrupting, listening if not engaged. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Georgie. I hear that. A bit scattered and overly talkative, Jane. Yeah, yeah, hear that for sure. Sarah with Judge, yeah, and from Green, yeah, absolutely. Lyrics quick to jump in and help without understanding the task fully. Yeah, that can happen. And overly talkative, easily distracted. Yeah, 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 yeah. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. Understanding that yellow side of ourselves, just like the red, has some great strengths and also has some potential limiters we've got to manage. We've got to manage this together. Very, very powerful to understand those potential limiters. And there is some of the potential limiters that we've researched over the years. Yeah, being too much for others, Dawn. Yeah, absolutely, been there. Very interesting to understand how we show up here. Really matters, really does matter. And that's where play and pause can really benefit a human being. And being introduced to play and pause, we do some work in Aberdeen with some of the offshore teams, and we worked with an offshore installation manager the other day. Must have been about 60 years of age, and he said, Mark, the pause button is very interesting. I never knew I had a pause button. And I was like, yeah, yeah, there you go. I hear you. So can we get blues, please? Can we get some blues to tell us some of their potential limiters, please? Alex there saying possessive. Alex, I'm looking forward to watching your practitioner video this evening or indeed over the weekend. Elizabeth saying doesn't like making snap decisions. Yeah, absolutely. Probably need to be more thought through from a green-blue perspective. Gail, slightly unsure at times. Yeah, can be a little bit insecure. Great. Thank you for sharing. I love that. Ellen, can feel overwhelmed at times. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that can happen. So those great blue strengths can also show up with plenty of blue potential limiters as well. And there's some of our researched information. I showed this to my mum at a live event recently, and she said, "Oh, all of a sudden, I don't feel so different. I feel a bit more understood. Her e-colours are blue and green." And certainly, you can be too nice sometimes, yeah, as a blue and green at times. Unsure, reluctant to speak up, yeah, that can happen. Certainly, with those great blue strengths, there comes blue potential limiters like all the others. Lovely. Can we go to the greens, please? Can we have the greens involved? And let's get the greens involved for some of their potential limiters. Self-critical, yes, that self-critical voice for a green, because you quite often holding yourself and others to very high standards, very, very high standards. Critical, reactive, procrastinating, self-critical, picky. Yeah, look, I mean, there's some amazing stuff here coming out. Yeah, overthinker, inner critic, sometimes detached. Really important. Look at the predictability of what we're seeing here. Yeah, judgmental. Yeah, absolutely. Because if high greens, I did this with a session in the British Antarctic Survey a while ago, mostly high greens. And I said something about accepting people who don't necessarily work to your high standards. And I heard most of the room go, "Oh, I'm not sure about that one." So again, it's about understanding that we all have these things within us, and there's some of the green potential limiters. Reed says, I need a green in my life to balance my high red. I know that feeling from a yellow red perspective, Reed, with my wife, as Emma is a green blue. Yeah, pause on the judgmental side of ourselves. But here, these are pause opportunities, are they not? For all of us, based on our e-colours and based on our percentages. Yeah. Sarah says there, I can find reds pretty scary. Sarah, I understand that comment, but it's certainly around making sure that each person understands that, we have a play button to actually be able to be more accepting, but also that red, if we introduce that red to a pause button, potentially that would be more of a successful outcome. Yeah, but love them. Exactly. Yeah, love them because they help us get stuff done. But let's be clear, we've also got a red percentage in all of us, a yellow percentage in all of us. Yeah. It's really interesting to observe. What a great exercise that is in the chat box. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I hope you enjoyed that because that's important and it's going to lead us on to the next part of this. Stress. Now, play and pause comes into stress, of course. Let me ask you a question. Is it reasonable to believe that different people with different personality styles will manage stress and conflict differently? That's a pretty much a yes or no, unless you've got a question. Yes, from Audrey. Yeah, 100% from Chris. Let me know. Let me know in that chat box there. Let me know more answers to this Is it reasonable to believe that different people with different personality styles manage stress and conflict differently? Yeah, absolutely. We're all agreeing. So therefore, would it be useful to understand the e-colors and indeed reactions and indeed responses, more intentional responses? Yeah, they might hide it. Yeah, Alan, good point. They might hide it. David makes a good point. It could vary depending on the situation. You're absolutely right, David. But what I would suggest is that the top two e-colors will be the indicator of where someone might go first, and then it becomes a manageable situation. From there, of course, depending on your e-color percentages, it will play out. So we're going to continue with the question. When stress arises, how do you react? From the red perspective, can you give us a positive and a negative? Can you? Oh, can you give it? Because the chat box is so big, I've kind of flicked on one there. Sorry. So, from a red perspective, positive or negative, when stress arises, how might you react? Yeah, potentially an outburst might come. Yeah, yeah. Fight or flight could come up. Yeah. Anything else? Any other reactions from red regarding when stress arises? Yeah. Paul might go to harsh. Yeah, yeah. Reed might react. Yeah. Andy Ward might get impatient. Yeah. More direct, not listening. Yeah. Yeah. Danny says in there, Danny Kett. Yeah. Opposite E colours. Yeah. 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 We can stress each other out or calm each other down. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. So here's something, Lewis. And as we go through this, Lewis, do you want to just input a little bit here on the red perspective? You there, Lewis?
I'm not sure what there is to say other than it's true. But I think what's important to understand, and again, the reason we wanted to talk about this from a, from a positive and a negative perspective, is there are times when you may see stress around you and you need to be the one that actually, for example, makes decisions or takes control. Where I see this with my daughter, for example, Laura, when something's going wrong, like when I had a heart issue in the States, she immediately took over and got everything sorted out. So it's not only negative.
Absolutely. And Laura's E colours are red and yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that is a positive and or a negative could become, like harsh or bad tone or impatient or some of the other things that are in there when stress arises. But also you could go into decision making mode as a positive. But if you go into controlling mode, that could also potentially go into more of a negative, if you like. And also as well, one of the things I've learned is to offer a decision rather than necessarily just take control. Unless I absolutely have to take control, I might offer a decision rather than just say it's my way or the highway almost. So from a yellow perspective, thank you. And thank you, Reg. Thank you for everything in the chat. It's amazing. What a great experience this is. From a yellow perspective, when stress arises, what have you got from a yellow perspective? I'm coming to that, Duncan, that bit. Yeah, absolutely. You might get overwhelmed and rush. Yeah, yeah. Control, take over. Yeah, deal with it immediately. Interesting, Shane. Thank you. Depending on the severity, negative, the heart rate and blood pressure goes up. Yeah, confirmed by the Apple Watch. I hear you, Dean. I absolutely hear you. Yeah, yeah, interesting. Stop thinking clearly. Yeah, I mean, for my answers, I put down impatient. I can get impatient a bit in red. Also, from a yellow perspective, I really need to talk about it. And sometimes from my blue perspective, I might withdraw a bit as well, depending on the situation. But I'm working on that. I'm working on that and taking it to heart, literally. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Lewis. From a yellow perspective, we've put here that we might go to expressive or indeed reactive if we're in a high yellow. So again, positive expression. Okay, that can be a positive. Express the stress, get it out there, and actually release that is a useful thing. That's why I did therapy. That's why I did a lot of coaching myself before I became a coach to understand the process. Very much about understanding my own reactions to stress and getting to that point where I can understand what I'm doing and then be able to manage it. But to be honest, I still bounce things off Lewis quite often. When things come up, I'll go and talk to Lewis, and it's important. It's important to have people around us. Chris Hunter says, do people in the same family often present the same E colours? I wouldn't say often, Chris. I would say it's a complete interesting It's a complete, yeah, Angela's answer. Yeah, four kids are all different despite e-colors, different e-colors despite the same nurturing. I've seen families with all completely different e-colors, and I have seen some e-colors where my mum and brother, example, are both blue greens, and I'm pretty sure my dad was a yellow blue, and I was a yellow blue. So it's interesting. There's no absolute rhyme or reason. Personality is a beautiful thing, but ultimately the research part of this is the bit that we're looking at. So, from the blue perspective, if we could have some blues, thank you, yellows. From a blue perspective, when stress arises, how do you react? Carolyn, invite your family to do their e-colours. Georgie, yeah, burnout, yeah, pretending I've got it all together, yeah, avoidance, yeah, 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 yeah. Positive from Carolyn, get stuff done quickly at the last minute, but negative can be burnout, procrastinate, avoid, yeah, 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 very much Carolyn with the blue there. Withdraw, Alex, yeah, 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 that can happen a lot for anyone with high blue. Um, Feel it calm, but keeping it inside. Yeah. Internalize. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Very, very interesting from the blue perspective. So again, if we're
Want to
looking
put
at,
this in the cooler?
hello, who
No?
was that? Who was that? Hello. Can I just, sorry, I just want to make sure if you need to speak, just please put your hand up. That'd be great. Please, otherwise, stay muted for the time being. We will do a big Q&A at the end if you want it as well. Absolutely fine. From a blue perspective, uh, more supportive, yeah, absolutely. But the negative could be avoiding potentially. So I think it's very, very important to understand the people around you. Angela in Australia there, Angela saying internalize it. Yeah, okay. Sometimes it's important to express it, Angela, right? To let it out. And Britt Lee's husband's blue, and he says it feels like a mental overload. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And from the green perspective, could I please have some greens? Thank you, blues. Could I have some greens, please? The greens are all prepared and ready to go. Look at that. Look at that. The greens on how they might react. Amazing. Look at that. Very, very interesting. Absolutely. But I love it. Come up with a plan. Yes, Danny. Excellent. Dr. Danny kept with us here. Amazing. Triggered. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, here's a green perspective. That positive analytical plan. Yeah, absolutely. Coming up with a plan is very, very important so that you can process it if you have high green percentage. Emma does that. I don't so much. Plan, detail. Yeah, absolutely. But that rigidity could come into it as well as a potential negative. So again, we've got to understand each of us is going to have a different positive and or negative reaction to stress. Now, my question to you would be, yes, know thyself, but how important would be this to know others globally? As Lewis said earlier about the numbers, amazing amount of number of you on this call. How important is it that actually we help others with this information? Think about it. Okay. Augusto there, yeah, negative. Yeah, yeah, negatives can be impatient, yeah, intolerant, yeah. Positive for Augusto. Yeah, problem solver. Yeah, analytical. Nice, Augusto. Well done, mate. Love that. Love that. Okay. When stress arises, how could you manage it? We're going to go the same process. Let's go again from red perspective. How could you manage stress as a red for thinking about maybe pause moments? Yeah, absolutely, Paul Grant. Absolutely pressing pause. Yeah, that can absolutely happen when stress arises. Anyone else? Any other advice from a red perspective for yourself? Georgie, this is what I came to the meeting. Yeah, absolutely, Georgie. You're about to get a couple of answers, but let's see some from in the chat box as well, because absolutely this is a research project of humanity. We are here to understand what we can discover as well as what we've already discovered and share with you. Okay. Hamza says, go to Costa and have a coffee break. Oh, that's a good advice, but that's actually quite often a blue perspective might go out for a walk or to escape for a little while. Control what you can from a green red there. Go to an independent, not a Costa, exactly. But yeah, in the red perspective, how you could manage it. There's some good advice. And Lewis, I'll come to you at the end of once we've done all four of these with some good advice for people. Pausing, slow down a little bit, respond rather than react. Being self-aware of your red tendency or indeed your red percentage, being able to just understand a little bit more. A lot of people at work are very much in do mode, aren't they? Because it's very much about how we get things done, right? That's what happens. But we've also got to understand other members of the team and the energies they bring. And when we do that, we actually become better human beings, all of us. So ultimately, there's some advice for Red. Pause. Use the pause button. We've got the on our wristbands. I have the pause and play button literally on my wristband here. That pause and play is vitally important to me. And I know Andy Ward's got it tattooed on his hand. Has Paul Hutchinson's got it tattooed on his wrist? I don't have a tattoo yet. But look, ultimately, pause, slow down, respond for Red. What about yellows? How when stress arises from yellow, how could you manage that? Audrey, by the way, in red says connect to others. Yeah, love that. Absolutely love that. Connecting to others rather than being independent at that moment in red, we could actually go to pausing, slow down in responding and connecting to other people. Yeah. Yellow from Shane. Shane, I'm very much looking forward to reading your book when it comes out. It's going to be fantastic. Talk about it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. My answers from yellow, just while the yellows are filling the chat box there. The yellows for how stress arises for me. Pause, breathe, focus, and talk about it. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very important. Duncan saying press pause and jumping in to help when you may not understand the situation or what is exactly needed. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And having that self-awareness is such an important thing. Go and hang out with friends and talk it out from Jane. Love that. Karen, go for a walk. Yeah. Self-awareness, breathe. Lovely stuff from the yellows here. Dean, press the internal pause. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Take a brief break, reassess. Yeah, hear that, Dean. And Andy, listen to a great audio book relating to heart rate. Yeah, lovely. And the brilliantly need to press pause at times just to be, more understanding. So, from a yellow perspective, pausing, slowing down the same. You see, yellow and red actually are quite similar, but from the red perspective, respond, and the yellow's perspective, let's manage those emotions, as best as possible, because they might come up, and we need to just make sure we're in a good place here. John, no worries. Thank you for being in the chat box. There's a 3 p.m. session if anyone wants to join that as well, with about 60 people from different time zones joining us as well. Yeah, my red, Dean's red, a yellow percentage are pretty close there as well. Absolutely. So understanding those are very, very important. From a blue perspective, could we get some blue about stress and how could you manage stress? Could we go there? Remain calm. Absolutely, Philip. Love that. Focus on a solution with care. And I'm sure blues, you're thinking about how it's going to land with other people quite often and feeling that as well. Could we press play and speak up in the situation, Alex? Yeah, love that. Yeah. So other people know your viewpoint. Yeah. Yeah. Break it down into doable chunks. Yeah. Go to the beach or book holiday. Yes, Carolyn. Yeah. Go out in nature. Absolutely. Consider others. Absolutely. Love that from the blue perspective. Pause, literally. Pause, go out in nature or open up, speak up, share. It's pretty much exactly what you've all just said. Can you all see the beautiful predictability of what we're talking about here and then what we could benefit from learning more about ourselves continually and then helping others as well understand this information? Absolutely. Georgie, you're absolutely spot on. So can we get a green perspective? I'm sure they're all prepared and ready to go and ready to hit the button. Stress arises from green. What have we got? Take a step back. Absolutely. Delegate more. Yes, delegate more is good. Press play on self-care. Very good. Stop and assess. Yeah. Love that. Sam, be more open to others. Internalize stress less. Ask for help. Yeah, good. This is good advice. Emma, the punch bag is available for you in the garage as we speak. Very, very important to understand this. Yeah, very good. Look at the greens. That's fantastic from the green perspective. Breathe, review the situation. Absolutely. So there's a pause moment for everybody here. Pause, no judgments on yourself or others, and make a plan. Make a plan. Lewis, now we've shown that around how stress arises, what would be your experience?
Well, I think the first thing to point out, as you can see, we all have our own mechanisms depending on our own circumstances, and clearly our personalities come into play. A couple of things that jump into mind for me is, and it's interesting, it hasn't come up a lot in the conversations, but um, I'm thinking of a particular situation where we were working with some teenagers who actually had got themselves into a problem with drug and alcohol abuse. And literally, their stress was for the yellows and blues, it was trying to say no when others wanted to go ahead and take something or smoke something. And literally, what got them out of trouble was pressing their pause buttons. And in their words, we decided to press pause and not commit suicide. I think one of the other things that came up in the session I had last week was you can't tell somebody how they need to manage stress. And the reason I say that, for example, is what comes naturally to you, your natural response is going to be, well, do this. Where actually you can see from the answers, it could be completely different. So having a really good idea, taking the information we're getting here, when you know something about enough about yourself where you can manage it. For example, I made my mind a few years ago. Nobody would ever, first of all, 22 years ago, I decided never to have an argument again. That used to stress me out. So I decided not to have any arguments. Then talk about, I'm never going to get frustrated, disappointed, or angry ever again because I was allowing people to make me angry, frustrated, or things like that. And it's the same with stress. A lot of it we can actually manage if we take a step back into whatever mechanism works for us and go, I am not going to allow this in. And I think it's about choice. And I think maybe, I'm going to be 75 years old in a couple of months, so maybe that's not obvious when you're 20. But I can tell you now, the more that you choose, the more you're intentional about how you're going to address things, the easier it becomes to manage.
Very, very good words, Lewis, and thank you for that. I would also suggest that, I've thankfully nowadays get to talk to you pretty much every day and we get to work every day. And I got a little bit stressed about something recently and you interrupted my pattern because you said to me, Mark, you've told me that about 10 times. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I have, yeah. But it was good. It was a good piece of advice. It just interrupted. It was coaching, and it just interrupted my pattern. My natural yellow 40% pattern was very much, you know, I just needed to pause, slow down a little bit. And I think it's very, very important. Yeah, good point about control what you control. What you control. Really, in this world, all you control is yourself, your thoughts and feelings. You don't control much else. And so ultimately, I think it's very, very important that we work together on this. Danny Kett says, Lewis, how do you do this without withdrawing or when you have a position that you need to defend? That's an interesting question, Lewis.
I'll take it if you don't mind. I found a lot of times I really don't need to defend it. And I was actually thinking this morning, if you think about COVID's, circle of concern, influence, and control, there's a lot of things that I would like to get involved in, but really can't, and therefore it's completely out with like the war, for example, what's going on in the Middle East. I'd love to get involved and stop it, but I know I can't, so I'm not going to stress about it. Different if you're sitting in Dubai getting bombed every day. I understand that. But
Mm.
I think it's really important to understand is how many times when you see people going flat out in an argument and 2 weeks later they can't even remember why they were arguing about it.
And David Studden puts a great point here. Can anyone really win an argument? And Georgie's saying the answer is yes as a yellow red. But yeah, haha, absolutely. But nobody wins an argument. And actually, from my perspective, the e-colors has allowed me to. I no longer argue with anybody like Lewis. I observe them. I enjoy their perspective. And then we move forward together. Yeah, debate. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But again, lots of things can come into that, not just e-colors, but your beliefs and many, many other things as well. So anyway, let's keep going because this is great. Let's talk about information in the premium report. Okay. Again, how stress affects me. Now, this is information that's in the premium report, but I wanted to share it with you. You can see here, please look at your quadrant and see how predictable the questions, indeed the questions that we've asked and the answers that we've got. Please have a look at this and see, have a look at this and see what is going on. Sorry, one second. My phone's went off there. I should have switched that off. Have a look at the quadrants and have a look there and see how easy it is to see yourself based on your top two e-colors for sure. Okay. You will recognize something in some of the other quadrants, but actually you'll see the top two generally come out. Georgie, I really see it. There you go. There you go. Yeah, you'll see that this is in the premium report. There's lots more advice on stress in the premium report, but absolutely go and get it. And as I said, best £30, $40 you'll ever spend if you use the discount code. Go and get it and understand your premium report. Because when you do that, you'll get to a point of understanding where other people are as well as yourself. Yeah. It's such an important thing to get your head around. Now, look, reds might become angry and impatient. Yellows might get more emotional and talkative and need to tell you about it. Greens might get more frustrated and indeed need logical solutions because they can believe that stress is an integral part of actually being themselves. And blues may become more stubborn, more withdrawn, etc. Understand to see this, yeah. Danny, that's a great point that we had a chat about last night, isn't it? Blaming the system. But again, this is in the premium report. I urge you to go and get it and read it because you'll find a lot more information in there. What causes me stress on a team? Top answer given here as well. Look at it again. Look at it again and think to yourself, yeah, how does this show up for me? Yeah. You'll see this. You'll see this so predictably based on your e-colors. What can cause you stress? And I'm not going to dwell on it because I've got a couple more questions to ask you. But I want you to understand we have these alignment reports, and these alignment reports are actually there so you can actually see your own e-colors, but then the other 12 e-color combinations and how to align with other people. In that, as an example, here's a yellow-red to green-blue alignment report, and there's some advice in there on stress factors for me and how to interact with my wife and other green-blues. Yeah. Embrace ideas and suggestions, bring a supportive work environment, understand that a green's questions are very important, use my pause button. These are very, very, very important. Okay. Maria, we're just talking about these two slides. This is the alignment reports from the Equilibria shop. You can go on there. The link is in the emails that I've sent you. You can go on there. You can get these alignment reports from your own e-colors perspective. So the yellow, red one is the middle for me. And then there's all these ways to align. And the reports themselves are very detailed, like a premium report, and they are fantastic. Okay, absolutely fantastic. There you go. Bavia's put a link there in the chat box. And they have things like stress factors for each individual and how to work with other people. It's very, very important. Maria, we'll pick that up separately if that's okay. But essentially, these stress factors come out and you can understand and study this subject based on the material that's on the Equilibria website. Now, let's look a little bit at conflict. Is it reasonable to believe that conflict can be a source of stress for many people? So yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. So conflict can cause stress. Okay. For some more than others. Yeah, absolutely, Lewis. And in which areas of life does conflict tend to happen? Can that be at work, at home, certain family members, certain people? I don't know. Could be different places, right? Could be different places. But yeah, some of us will avoid conflict for sure. But it's about understanding it can happen in different areas. So what does conflict look like? What does conflict look like to you from a red perspective? What happens when a red, if you like, gets a bit triggered with conflict? Any thoughts? Yeah. Okay. Difference of opinions. Yeah. Yeah. Volume increases from the red. Yeah. So actually, red actually volume increases. And if I ask the blues, when volume increases, how do you feel? I pretty much know the answer. Yeah. So yeah, volume up, not being listened to. Yeah, absolutely. I'll show you the red. From a red perspective, inefficiency, lack of progress, or unnecessary obstacles. And why are we stuck? And let's fix it. That is generally how a top color red would be thinking. Okay. From a yellow perspective, what have we got around conflict? What does conflict look like to yellows? From my perspective, I put down I can struggle with deadlines. And sometimes that will be working with someone who's very harsh or tough on deadlines. So it might be the red perspective, but sometimes I can struggle with that. And I do like to be more in the flow of things. I like to be more in the flow of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. These are great. Yeah, these are excellent. Yeah. Why don't I understand, Shane? Yeah, that's a really interesting one from a yellow perspective as well. Conflict from a yellow can look like disconnection, lack of collaboration. Why don't they understand me or what's going on? Uh, or people not being heard. We're not aligned. Something's not right between us. What is it? This is very, very important. Okay, to understand that yellow perspective will come in from that piece around if we're not connected, then there might be a lack of collaboration, and that might feel conflict and indeed stress from that yellow perspective. What about the blues? What about the blues? Have we got anything from the blues around conflict? Yeah. Too many demands. Yeah. Sarcasm, put downs. Yeah. Yeah. People not with your values potentially from blues. Yeah. Personality clashes will make blues there, Philip. Thank you for that. Very interesting. Conflict might from a blue might look like tension, hurt feelings, breakdown in trust or respect. Something doesn't feel right on a personal level, you know, and then why is that happening? That might come out. I used to cry, Angela. Yeah, absolutely. Not so much now. I want to do everything to overcome it. Ellen, thank you. From that perspective, blues like harmony. They like harmony, so they like to bring everything together. What about the green perspective? Thank you, everyone. So far, it's fantastic. What about the green perspective around conflict look like? What does conflict look like from green? When people don't listen, follow the plan, or don't read the detailed instructions that you've put together. Frustrating. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Really interesting conversation here going on. I love this. Uh, Instability, pressure, rush decisions without clarity, feels chaotic. I need time and space to process. You may well hear that from a green. Can you see that again on the screen? The predictability of conflict and then leading to stress. Lewis, do you want to share something?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think is interesting is what some people see as conflict, others just see as I'm trying to stimulate a conversation.
Hmm.
And I'll see this a lot when we're coaching, particularly between reds and blues, where the red thinks they're just trying to get things going and get some good conversation generated. A top color blue may take it as quite offensive. And most people anywhere in the world that we work with, particularly top color blues, they really do not like conflict. And it's the same with kids in school. We've talked a little bit about the children. I've seen many times where blue greens, for example, will not raise their hand in class until they're given until they're given a wristband and actually press the play button, because again they see that as conflict, and it goes on throughout their entire lives unless it's managed.
Absolutely. Brilliant chair. Thank you. This is important stuff, people. Okay. Instinctive reactions when conflict arises. What do we have? Reds. When reaction, sorry, instinctive reaction. What happens if there's conflict from a red perspective? Push harder from Audrey. I love that, Audrey. That's brilliant. Guards can go up. Yeah, try to solve it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Wristbands for kids is great, Dawn. Yeah, it's amazing. Red face from. Brilliant stuff. I love that. Getting frustrated, yeah, can come up because people are perhaps not going at the pace you want them to, or indeed they're not taking the actions that you would like them to take. Um, Instinctive reaction from a red might be, let's address this now and let's just move forward. Yeah, just get it done. Move forward. Yeah, understanding that red perspective is very, very important. Okay. From the yellow perspective, I've just flashed it on the screen. My bad, sorry. But from a yellow perspective, when conflict arises, I think we've already actually had that. But let's show it to the yellows anyway. Can we talk this through? It's a big thing for a yellow. Yellow wants to talk it through. Depending on their secondary colour, I know as a yellow red, I want to talk it through now. As a yellow blue, I probably wanted to talk it through much later. But then it's very, very important to understand how we can respond or indeed react to these things. What about that blue perspective? The blue perspective around instinctive reactions. What might you do? Mm. Try and fix it and then run away because I initially take it on. Great observation. Take it, try and fix it, but then maybe withdraw if you take on too much, Carolyn, like a conversation we had recently, right? Yeah, try and fix it. Absolutely. Bring in harmony. Calm down. Yeah, Ian. Thank you. Very good, Ian. Very good. Love that. From the blue perspective, how is everyone feeling about this? That can be an instinctive reaction as well. Very, very important to understand that we all have different perspectives here. And what about the green one? What about the green perspective for instinctive reactions? Yeah, explain, keep explaining. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Withdraw, plan. Yeah, explain. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really interesting, this. Very, very interesting. The green often might need time to think before responding, depending on their yellow percentage as well. Green yellows might actually just want to just talk about what's going on in their head and keep going and keep going. If you have a green blue, you might be more steady paced and want to plan that more. Green red, you might have a different outcome as well. Again, it's very, very, very interesting to start to understand these instinctive reactions if there's conflict. Yeah, important stuff. And the last question I'm going to ask you today is, what could you press pause on in a time of conflict? Let's go again. Reds, please. What could you press pause on? My wristbands, yeah, your incoming wristband, Zoe, or the one you've got already. But yeah, one's for your team. Yeah, anything else? Yeah, reaction, Georgie. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, press pause on that for sure. Stop to think. Yeah, good advice, Reed. Yeah, absolutely. Take a tactical sip of water, things like that. Yeah, absolutely. From the red perspective, yeah, pause those actions, manage impatience, perhaps be a bit more understanding as needs to be for sure. What about that yellow perspective? For me, what I could press pause on when conflict arises is certainly emotions and or talking. What have we got from the yellow? Do you agree with the yellow there? Oversharing, managed tone. There are a couple of people on the call that I know that have been or had oversharing issues in the past. I know for sure from that yellow perspective. It's about managing that tone, isn't it, as well? What about blue? What could you pause on? Only if you choose to, Don. Pause on feelings of hurt from blue. Yeah, yeah. Step back, learn to say no. Very good. Absolutely. Pause on withdrawal. And again, managing that emotional aspect of ourselves. It might be anxiety or anything like that as well. And learning to manage that is very, very important. And last but by no means least, greens. Pause opportunities for conflict. Would you like to tell us a few of yours, please? Yeah, pause overthinking. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Overanalyzing. Yeah. Uh, is it important after all? Is a good one, Danny. Ket. Yeah, great. Yeah, Sarah. Don't get drawn into operating red. Always. Yeah, overthinking. Yeah, absolutely. Look at that. It's really important. Press pause on judgment and managing your inner critic. Yeah, criticizing, Charlotte. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Managing your inner critic will then help you manage your outer critic, if you like. So again, being more kind to yourself as a green is always good advice, I would suggest. Lewis, do you want to add something here?
I think this is all very wise, and if we each at least pick one thing that we're going to take away from this in terms of managing the conflict, I think it'd be best for everybody involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love that chat box and the conflict resolution piece, Lewis.
Yeah, this is something that we came up with a while ago, and it was actually given to us by one of our clients as he was learning more and more about the e-colors. He said, if you think about it logically, and again, you can imagine what their e-colors were. He said, when something starts to move towards conflict, and I think it'd be interesting to get Dr. Danny Kett's perspective on this, but the first thing is to kind of think through the green lens and get the facts. The blue then is around demonstrating empathy and listening to understand. Again, make sure you understand where the other person is coming from. Then the socializing, when I say socializing, is communicating and engaging in whatever the issue was. And then the red comes last as opposed to first, which is do it, act together to move forward. And if you bring that into a practical situation, it actually tends to work very well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, conflict resolution is something that we specialize on because it reduces stress for people. Because ultimately, if there's an event and a personality-based reaction, we might end up with regrets. Okay. And that's what we don't want. We don't want sleepless nights and regrets. We want to be actually in a good place because if we have a character-based response, and we use the pause and play advice that we talk about in Life Remixed and indeed in e-colors, all of a sudden you're going to get more favorable results and more intentional outcomes. And of course, that's personal intervention. Just understanding you have those play and pause buttons is important. Knowing yourself and knowing others, and then being able to respond, make conscious choices, is a very, very valuable thing, because it leads you to appreciation. It leads you to appreciation, acceptance, the top of the mountain there. But it's understandable that people take a journey to get there, and we are aware of that, and we understand where people are coming from. But it's our research that I think that shows us to be, showing the predictability of personality. So you understand this concept now. You're seeing it in the chat box. You're really getting your head around this, and seeing where other people are coming from. You understand different people. What and when telling is red, but can have strengths and potential limiters, as does yellow, green, and blue. And again, this is all information from that premium report, which I urge you to get. There are some very simple filters you can see. From a red perspective, be mindful of ignoring or speed listening. From a yellow perspective, selectively listening or interrupting. From a blue perspective, you'll listen with empathy, but you might withdraw. And from a green perspective, you'll actively listen, but you may ask lots and lots of questions. And you've just got to understand, each of us, how this plays out. Okay. And indeed, understanding that each of us has different easy verbal clues for us to see and understand where we're coming from. So we're coming towards the end of the session now, and clearly, because there's so many of us, I've slightly overrun a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump ahead slightly to a couple of other things I wanted to show you. This is one of our colleagues, Fenu, in Dubai. He says, I thought it was all grey matter, but now I see the colours, which I thought was a lovely testimonial. And another friend of ours who uses the e-colours, through the e-colours, this is Lloyd Cornwall. From the e-colours, I've learned how to deal with conflict in the workplace, and more importantly, getting the best out of people that are wired entirely differently from myself, which is a really important piece of work, I feel. So do get involved. Let's have a little chat about what went well. And indeed, understanding this debrief piece. But before we do that, let's just have a quick look at the golden rule of life, which is treat people as what? Treat people as you would like to be treated, right? Treat people as you would like to be treated is very kind and correct. But actually, if you think about it in the e-colors world, slightly incomplete, because we need to treat people as they would like to be treated based on their personality and based on their e-colors. So I just want you to understand that. I also want you to make sure you've got the next date in your diary for the mental health remixed, turning triggers into power, May the 8th, which I'll be in touch about. And from that perspective, I really would just love you to tell us what's gone well, and what have you learned about other people, yourself and other people. And for that, I'll take the share off. You can use the chat box if you would like to. But what's gone well for you? If you want to unmute or put your hand up, Lewis, I think you've probably got a few minutes afterwards if people want to hang on, have you?
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm free
Yeah.
till 12 o'clock.
Yeah, okay, so we can hold on a minute if anyone would like to. Georgie just says pause. Yes, Georgie, I love that. It's good advice for the faster paced individuals between amongst us, for sure. Anyone else want to put their hand up and share anything, or indeed use the chat box? What's gone well in today's session? What have we learned? Anything you'd like to observe? Andrew says, great session. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated. Yeah, thank you, Emma. Yeah, get involved, and we can help you in your teams, with your companies, reducing stress, conflict, etc. as well. Alex, great to drill down further. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, Britt Lee. Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. Anyone with their hand up can speak if you would like to speak. Otherwise, I've brought us in 2 minutes early, so that's the first. I did have a load more slides to show. Lewis, do you want to round up as well, mate?
Well,
Oh,
first
Karen.
of all, I want to say thank you. But actually, the first thing I want to do is say, Mark, you really are fantastic. I got to give you your full due. Good on you for bringing everybody together. For me, I can tell you, and I'm sure Paul's in the same position, and Dean actually was on the call. We had no idea how this was going to work, when we started Equilibria back in 2004. But to see the way it's developing, to see the way that people are gaining from the experiences that we've been able to share over the year, which you are very much taking forward, it is an absolute privilege and a pleasure to see it continuing, and long may it last. So I just want to say I appreciate to everybody who's on the call, and I'm sure we can have a lot more conversation in the future. But thank you.
Absolutely. No, brilliant. Thank you. And Carolyn, did you put your hand up there? Would you like to?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to. yeah, I just say thank you. But one thing I realized, I looked back at my premium reports because we did this, what, 3 years ago now. And I'm actually thinking I might do it again because when I looked at my percentages, there was no red in mine.
Mm.
And that's something I've been consciously trying to work on because I can be so indecisive and I'm not a big risk taker. So that's just something I've really clicked this morning when I had it, when I pulled it out again. So I'm going to go redo mine, I think, and go redo one of those premium reports. Be interesting to see what's, you know, changed slightly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's changed because actually, through personal development, through work, through coaching, and obviously we've worked together quite closely, Carolyn, as well, and thank you for all of your support and kind words. Ultimately, we do change as individuals. We grow, don't we? And ultimately, it's always good. I went back and did my e-colors 4 or 5 times. Every single time it was yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue. And then eventually it just shifted to yellow, red ever so slightly. And that just made me a little bit more decisive and a little less, in the sort of anxiety of blue in some of my potential limiters. And that's a coaching development story in itself. So yeah, absolutely great session. The feedback in here has been amazing. If anyone else wants to stay on, please do. But otherwise, we will love you and leave you for today. Take care of yourselves. Lewis and I have a 3 p.m. session. If anyone else wants to join it, you want to share that with other people. But otherwise, thank you for this global session and the amazing feedback we've had. Lovely to see you all.
Thank you.
See you all.
Take, bye.